So I made my professional debut against Fulham when I was 18 years old, and 4 years later, I was sleeping in my car. My name's Charles Hagan, and when I was younger, I used to think the hardest part about football was signing a pro contract. But my journey taught me otherwise, man. It taught me that it wasn't the final destination, it wasn't the hardest part, it was simply just the starting point. And it sounds crazy, but it's true. So how did I go from Chelsea's academy to signing a pro contract to being in a place that I never would have expected? This is my journey so far. And this video isn't just highlighting what clubs I've been at, it's highlighting the realities of elite football, how quickly things can change, and the fact that your career doesn't end because of age, it only ends when you quit. So let's go. Feels like I'm in a Netflix documentary, boy. So when I was 9 years old, I used to play football for my local borough, Croydon. I was dominating. I was top goal scorer. And it just so happened that our manager was a Chelsea scout. And so I got scouted for Chelsea and I declined. Yeah, I know. I declined Chelsea Football Club. But the main reason was simply because there was another sport that had my heart, athletics. And I wasn't just fast, I was rapid. A few years go by and I'm around 11 or 12 and I'm playing a school football tournament. Once again, I was dominating. I ended up being the best player. And the same Chelsea scout was there and her exact words were, "Charles, why didn't you come to Chelsea? We would have taken care of you." So at that point I said, you know what? I'm loving football at this point. I still love athletics, but it's just not hitting the same. So I said, let's do this. And so I had a trial at Chelsea. And the trial process at Chelsea is simple. You get offered a 6-week trial and then they can decide whether or not they want to sign you. And then slowly I got introduced to a whole different world, the world of elite football. Man, at Chelsea, football stopped being something that I just did. It started becoming my whole life. Tuesday night training sessions, Thursday night training sessions, Saturday morning training sessions, games on Sunday morning. And then they started introducing day release. For those that don't know, day release is when you get to miss a day of school and basically have a first taste of what full-time football is like. So you do your schoolwork at Chelsea and then you get to train during the day. It was basically like when you got to leave school early for a school football match, but with 10 times more aura. And then it happened. I got offered a contract and honestly it felt like a dream. Walking around Cobham, walking past the first team training ground all the time, seeing players like Eden Hazard. And my team was stacked. We had serious ballers, some that you might have even heard of. Tino Livramento, Michael Elise, Jamal Musiala, just to name a few. But there was something about Chelsea that people that were outside of the environment just couldn't understand. And that was the pressure, even as a kid, because every season or two, they would release players. One season your teammate's there, the next season he's gone. And from an early age, I started to really realize this game is brutal. 4 years later, I'm 16 and I received the news that no kid wants to hear. We're not gonna offer you another contract. And they told me the reason why. They said that they were prioritizing 2 other pathways. One of the players was Tino Livramento and the other was Tariq Lamptey. I always say I never needed a girl to break my heart because Chelsea did that for me. But what was crazy is how things started moving so fast. I had agents calling me. I had clubs contacting my house number, my own number. I don't even know how they got my DLs. So I went to trial at loads of different clubs. I got offered a few scholarships, but I ended up choosing Sheffield Wednesday. And you're probably asking, why is a South London boy going all the way up to South Yorkshire to sign for a football team? Well, it's because they offered me a professional contract at 16 years old. And guess what? I didn't even play a match for them. That's right. They offered me a contract simply because of how I trained. Comment down below if you want a different video on my trial experiences, because that's a whole different story in itself. So I left home when I was 16 years old and moved up to Sheffield. I was living in digs. For those that don't know what digs is, it's basically when a host family takes care of you. I was now playing full-time football and at first things were going really well. I ended my first year as top goal scorer. I had the most assists. We won the title. And to top it off, I got to make my under-23s debut at 17 years old. It was a decent start for full-time football, right? Well, it got better. Things were still moving. I played Leicester during pre-season, being on the same pitch with players like Vardy, Damari Gray, and then eventually I signed my first professional contract. And then soon after that, I made my professional debut. And let me tell you something, I was only on the pitch for about 10 minutes, but when I tell you I was blowing, the ball was moving so fast, I was like, this is an eye-opener. But still, I was on a high. Pro contract, tick. Professional debut, tick. I thought, yeah, this is it. I'm gonna make it now. But of course, I was wrong. Because while everything looked good on the outside, there was something subtle that was happening underneath. You see, when you're in digs, you spend a lot of time by yourself. And I don't know when it happened, but over time, negative thoughts started to creep in. Self-doubt started to creep in. And not only that, I started to pick up injuries. The biggest problem wasn't the fact that I was having these thoughts or feelings. It was that I started to believe them. And when you start believing negative thoughts, it starts affecting how you play. You start overthinking. You start playing to avoid making mistakes. And in football, that is dangerous. And then eventually, after 2 years as a pro, I got released. But straight away, I ended up going to Wycombe Wanderers. And I thought to myself, new team, fresh start, fresh mind space, let's go. But I had no idea what was going to happen next. At Wycombe, I finally got to experience a true first team environment. I got to be around senior pros, experience the intensity of training, their standards, and just generally how it was like to be in men's football. I had a good relationship with the manager and I was able to make my professional debut. But that season just wasn't what I expected because I ended up being injured basically the whole year. The period that I'd made my debut, I started catching a little bit of momentum. But this is where my story gets worse. I was always told that you should work harder than everyone else. No days off, you should always do more. And so that's what I did. On my rest days, I would do extra training, extra running. And then one day I went into training, we were doing 11v11. I ran in behind for a sprint and then boom, sniper shot. My hamstring goes. And not only that, a new manager comes in. So now I'm injured, a new manager's coming in, and my contract runs out at the end of the season. So my only goal was to end the season fit. So whatever happens, I could at least go to other teams during pre-season. And that's what I did. I came back during the last week of the season after my hamstring injury. And during my second session back, my own teammate wipes me out and I end up having to get ankle surgery. I'm out for half a year. I'm out of contract. I've got no next steps. And for the first time in my whole career, I asked myself, what the fuck am I gonna do? See, no one really talks about this side of football because when you're in football academies your whole life, football isn't just something that you do. It's who you are. It's your everything. Training, routine, structure, teammates, purpose, identity. And then all of a sudden, that's stripped away from you. And I suffered the consequences. I felt like I had let everyone down, my friends, my family, myself. And man, there was days that I would literally do anything to escape the feelings that I felt. There were days where I would literally sleep in my car just so I wouldn't have to face anything. And I'm not saying that for sympathy, but that was just my reality at the time because I didn't have anyone around me to guide me on the next steps, what life after football looks like, how I go from Charles the footballer to someone else. And for a whole year, I was lost, man. But that period made me learn something very crucial that would change my life. No one is gonna come and save you apart from you. At some point, you have to pull up your big boy pants. Feeling sorry for myself wasn't gonna get me fit. Living in the past wasn't gonna make me a better footballer. So I made a clean decision. I was done being a victim anymore. I was gonna set myself free. And those that know me know that I'm obsessed with anime. And my favorite one is one called One Piece. And the main character is a pirate that aims to be the king of the pirates. And he doesn't want to be king because of money or glory. He wants to be king because the king of the pirates is the freest man on the seas. And that's what I wanted. I wanted freedom. Freedom from the old version of myself. Freedom to play football exactly how I wanted to. And so I broke everything down. Why is it that I didn't become the player that I expected myself to be? Was it tactical? Was it physical? Was it mental? I started studying the greats. I sorted out my routine. I studied football properly. I discovered discipline, spirituality, awareness, and just a general understanding of myself. Slowly, things started to change. But there was one thing that I just couldn't ignore. I kept asking myself, what is it that I actually want out of life? And all I could hear was the sound of the net ripping and the crowd cheering. And I knew that football was still my calling. So what now? So I've just signed for a step 3 team in non-league. And my aim for this channel is to document the comeback, training, matches, mindset, setbacks. I want to help ballers understand what it truly takes to make it in this game, and also what it takes to rebuild yourself when things don't go as planned. Because I've seen both sides. I've been that guy, Mr. Footballer, making my professional debut, but I've also been that other guy, lost, rotting in bed, not knowing what direction to go. So yeah, that's how I ended up making my professional debut at 18, to sleeping in a car, to now being on the comeback. So if you like this video, like and subscribe to follow the journey. We're just getting started.